A little bit of problem with flights this morning, so we're sort of doing a little bit of a cut down because the facilitator of the panel didn't quite make it. She got turned back. So you doing
We're sharing.
We're sharing. Okay, we're doing a sharing and caring kind of panel. So this session is about collaboration, Mission Impossible between. Mission Possible. It was a late night last night. Mission Possible. Illawarra CALD, that is culturally and linguistically diverse water safety community model. And we have a panel of Miguel from his development of Sydney Development or Central Development.
I'm the Development Officer and Acting Cluster Coordinator.
Okay, so Acting Cluster Coordinator for the Office of Sport. We've got Peter Wilson. Peter's from the Coordinator of Aquatic Services at Wollongong City Council. Ian Kennelly, Regional Manager, Royal Lifesaving Illawarra. And Alison sorry, Multicultural Youth Services Coordinator, Multicultural Communities Council of Australia. So I think we'll start because we've been running a little bit late. So
Before we continue, I would like to acknowledge the Illawarra people, the traditional custodians of the land. I would also like to pay my respect to the elders past and present. So who are we? We are a working group from across sectors that came together in 2012 following the drowning of an 8-year-old Congolese boy and also an international student at Fairy Meadow Beach. So the Office of Sport response to the coroner's inquest was to find out who was doing what and what was needed in terms of water safety education in the region, in the area. So nearly 50 people were brought together by the Office of Sport. It became apparent that good things were happening, but communications between aquatic service providers and multicultural services and organisations simply just did not exist. So representatives from a variety of sectors did get together, so from the core community, aquatic services, New South Wales Police, local government, health, and obviously Office of Sport came together to initially form a working party of 14. So unfortunately, Catherine Campbell, who's my colleague, she actually was the key facilitator for this working party and unfortunately couldn't attend the conference. So in terms of the keys to success, we've basically there's been a development of a fact sheet. There is a one fact sheet in everyone's satchels, so we suggest that you refer to that. We shall be referring to that during this session. So also, another key to success was the collective approach across multiple agencies. So basically just sharing information really enriched experiences for all that were involved. But also importantly as well, the Office of Sport was in this instance a central communication point. So whilst the working party was facilitated by us, it was however driven by the community, which is very, very important. So, and very importantly, all the programs pretty much embrace the themes of diversity and inclusion. So if you just, there's the fact sheet that I just mentioned. So we'll just go to the next page.
Where's the sound going?
Situations, and sadly, our viewers back in Illawarra.
Yeah, I want to go back.
It's gorgeous and really inviting place to come and enjoy it, but it's full of things.
Yep.
The purpose is to ensure that we communicate and create awareness and particularly those newly arrivals who perhaps haven't had the experience to enjoy beaches like these in the past. And we have had some situations, and sadly, a few weeks back in Illawarra where there's been a fatality. It's gorgeous and really inviting place to come and enjoy it, but it's full of dangers if you don't know it yet. So often what we found is people would see a nice, clear, calm spot of water, and that's where the reef is, and that's how they get into trouble. So that's so understanding that there are some things in place that will help you be safe, like doing between floods, like being aware of blue bottles in the water, learning about reefs, and also even our sun. It's just making sure that you look after your skin and that you're safe, and then it becomes a really enjoyable and safe place to be.
Certainly for Burma, the prevailing sea conditions tend to be a little bit different to what we've got here. We've got, of course, our beaches are renowned for, we've got some great surfing beaches, but in that are particular hazards, and the presence of reefs is something that may be very different to Burma, which has probably got shallow waters surrounding some of those islands.
I think we need to understand and have that quite clear when people come to Australia, particularly people from refugee backgrounds. They are really welcoming their new life, and they just want to live a happy life. So they are willing to learn, they are willing to be good citizens, they are willing to understand how things work so that they can start their new lives here in Australia.
Okay. I forgot I was up there, so that's me. I'm Alison from the Multicultural Communities Council of Illawarra, and I'm the Youth and Communities Manager for MCCI. So what you just saw is a bit of a display of one of the programs that we run and how we put it all together and work together to convey the message of safety and awareness that we like to do. So just to talk about the purpose of agency and collaboration and what role do we play as a CALD organisation. What we bring to this team of collaboration is our strong connections. As you saw, we are able to link specialised services with the communities that we need to serve. And we're also able to do that in a cultural sensitive way. So when we speak to people from Council and Royal Life Service and Surf Life, we actually have a bit of a profile about the community that we want to work with. We make sure that we deliver a message in a way that is appropriate, that we take into account the barriers, the language barriers, the religion, the customs of their backgrounds and cultures, and then the message is passed on, taking into account those things and making sure that then we achieve the outcome that we wanted to achieve. So we bring those strong connections, we are culturally appropriate, we are very responsive, so we know that we want to send that message to respond to some of the sad issues that happen. But we'd also always listening to what community tells us, and we are those ears and eyes for the community and convey that to the services so we can put everything together. So it's not so much about what we think we need to do, but it's also to respond to those needs, the needs of the community we work along with. The other big thing that we provide as a CALD agency is the understanding of the barriers that we need to break for those communities to access those services. And the knowledge of the language, what languages we need to provide, do we need to bring interpreters, do we need community liaison officers, which are a little bit different to just knowing the language, but understanding the specifics of the culture that we're working with. And I think that's something that we do that really well. In terms of the local demographics, as you saw, Wollongong is a very diverse region. It's a very diverse region. And it has been for a very, very long time. So a lot of our entrants that come from humanitarian entrance visas, so people from refugee backgrounds and asylum seekers, they come as a result of conflict around the world. So if we look at the entrants that we had in the last probably 8 years, about 2,000 people have settled in the Illawarra, mostly coming from the Middle East, so countries like Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, and Syria. So the majority of the numbers are from the conflict, directly related to the conflict in Syria. There's been a number of entrants from African countries, particularly from Congo and Eritrea. And also the second largest group is coming from Burma. So when we talk about our Burmese community, we talk about two specific ethno groups, the Karen and Karenni. So although they come from the land of Burma, they don't speak Burmese. They can read and write Burmese, so it's quite specific, and it's really important not to make the assumption that because they come from Burma, that we are able to connect with them just using the male language. about the demographics as well, it's understanding the background and the cultural implications that that means. So for instance, we have two types of refugees, if you like, in a very broad sense. We've got urban refugees, so we probably that qualify for a lot of our Syrian entrants who have been displaced from their country of origin but have settled in refugee places that are in cities, just like our cities where we live. And they've been transient, yes, they've been moving around on the refugee journey, but then they come to Australia and settle here. So before that, they had access to good education, the level of literacy in their own language is high levels of numeracy. We can take all that into account when we develop our programs. So on the other hand, if we look at our communities coming from Burma, Karen and Karenni, they have settled at refugee camps north in the border with Thailand. So they've been in Thailand for a very long time. Some of those refugees have been in camps for over 20 years with very little access to education. So the level of literacy and numeracy is really, really low. And very little opportunities for engagement in any other thing than just living the day-to-day of those refugee camps. So you can see how diverse the qualities of these different community groups are. So yes, we'd also, so that's in terms of our newly arrived. Our last group that we connect with and work at international students, so it's really worthwhile to mention Wollongong has a very large university, the University of Wollongong. It receives a great number of international students every year. I don't have a number for you, but I can tell you our local school, Wollongong Public School, which sits in the heart of Wollongong, has about 600 students, 200, about a third of those students come in and out every year, so very transient, and there are children from international students who come and study for a year and then move on. So 200 come in, leave at the end of the year, and another 200 come in the next year. So it is quite diverse as well, and most from India and Pakistan. Yes, okay, some of the benefits. We've got some testimonials there and about the programs. What are the benefits that our programs bring to place? And is the increased knowledge and awareness, and I'll invite you to read some of that. I won't read those, but the increased knowledge about water safety. You know how that video showed said about the flags and where to swim, who to ask for help. Increased connectedness. So it's not just the knowledge and the awareness, but it's a great vehicle for social inclusion. And we do that really well. So we have some stories where young people have attended water safety programs at Port Kembla, and the young children in the family then went on to subscribing to NIPERS, for example. And that means that families connected every Sunday at the local beach, and the children are part of such an iconic activity. That's what it is living in Australia for us. Yeah, some other stories up there that I'll let you read. Okay. So some of our other community benefits, and I'm just, so bear in mind we had some participants who couldn't make it today, so we're picking on those. Yeah, so we also have, in terms of our relationship with the Settlement Services Organisation, so who deliver the HSP, which is the Humanitarian Settlement Program that the government runs, and that's the very first point of contact when a newly arrived has to the country. So these are the people who really welcome in newly arrived at the airport and starting the process for them. So we work really closely with them so that we can connect pretty much as soon as they get into the country. So that used to be Navitas for the area of Wollongong. This year is now the Red Cross delivering that program, and they're part of this committee so that we can pretty much keep an eye and target those newly arrived as they arrive into the area. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Ian from Royal Life Saving. Basically, the long story short is we want to prevent people from drowning, and I can talk about that in a huge amount of detail. But when we first responded to this situation, of course, I just turned around and said, look, well, let's just take them down the beach or down to the pool and just throw them in and get them to swim. It's pretty simple, you know. The only way you can drown-proof a person is to get them used to going into the water. And I'm not a big advocate of swimming lessons for new people, in that you've got to play in the water before you can actually gain anything from a swimming lesson. let's get them into the water, then give them a swimming lesson as they start to develop their skills, so that when they're playing, at least they can practice the skills they're learning. I see it all the time, you know, mums pay for swimming lessons, but don't let their kids play in the water, only when there's a swimming lesson, because they think that will drown-proof their children. So yeah, sure, let's throw them on the bus. Wollongong has a free bus. Let's get them down to the beach or the pool. Easy. And these people have to learn where to go buy their food. Nah, don't worry about that. We'll just get them down to the beach and down to the pool. We've got to throw them in the water. It's Australia, it's our culture. Throw them into the water. And they don't even know where to go to the local doctor. It really started to dawn on me that there was a big picture happening here, and my little part of the world was part of a really big picture. And that really came across on probably about our 5th program. We were running down at the local surf club, which is ironic in that we had Royal Lifesaving at a surf lifesaving club with a Wollongong Council lifeguard. There are 3 complete, distinct, separate organisations all working together, but the UN turned up. And when the UN turned up, this delegation of UN delegates turned up, just simply to see what we were doing for our new arrivals that were coming from war-torn countries, just to really see that we were trying to obviously not just educate, but also include them in everything we do. So from Raw Life perspective, we did a 30-minute session, and I'll show you the session. This is a quick, brief overview, and I think it'll say a lot more than what I can with the microphone.
Very good, very good, very good. Other people,
So we have one of our instructors, Carly Ryan, and she really encompasses the simple fact of the matter is the less we say, the better. Because quite often when you're at a course, the thing that wrecks it is the idiot up the front of the room who says, do it the way I'm going to tell you to do it, listen to me. Everybody listen to me, I'm very important, I'm an instructor, I'm going to teach you something like resuscitation. Now I've done this 42 times and I've had 15 success out. Give them the mannequin and let them learn the skill. Very, very important. And as you can see there, it's that simple that a child can learn. More importantly, a child can teach it to mum. So we get this kind of breakdown of generations, and we get this skill sitting in a surf club taught by Royal Life with a council lifeguard walking them through the beach environment. And I guess you can pat yourself on the back when you walk away from that, because it's not one agency, it's not one group of people, it's a community, and they've come together quite